Chiadi Undu was called to the Nigerian bar in 1987, but passion for mental health overtook the study of law, and she went back to the University of Lagos to study psychology. She has since obtained a doctorate degree in psychology. She has concluded various continuing professional developmental training programs with the Institute of Counseling, Glasgow, Beck Institute of Cognitive Behavior Therapy, amongst others. She has founded quite a number of, companies, Integrated Wellness and Therapy in 2012, and has completed over 10,000 hours of professional counseling and, I think she deserves a round of applause, psychotherapy. She has worked as an affiliate in various international employee assistance service providers, including CIC in the United Kingdom, Life Assist in South Africa, and a host of others. Chiadi has a passion for communication through both writing and speaking. She has hosted a radio program, Behind the Heart of both Inspiration FM and City FM. She has taught interpersonal relationship and emotional regulation skills portrayed in drama and dialogue. I mean, she has done a whole lot. I think she deserves a round of applause. Thank you. An ardent believer in holistic wellness, Chiadi trained at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, New York, and actively incorporates various aspects of nutrition, physical wellness, and lifestyle in her practice. She currently works for Mediserve Limited London as a counseling psychologist, providing culturally relevant therapeutic intervention for sub-Saharan Africa ethnic minorities in the diaspora, and she also works part-time as the counseling coordinator at Brent Careers Center, also in London. So if your hands are not too busy, let's join our hands together as we welcome Dr. Chiadi Undu. Thank you. Technical, do we have volume?
Is technical ready for me? Yes. I can't hear them. Are you ready for me, technical?
Yes. The technical is ready.
Good morning. Good morning. So are my slides put up, sir? Because it's my face I'm seeing. I'm not seeing my slides. Hello?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
I'm asking, are my slides put up?
Technical. Yes.
Can you please
It's
put up
up.
my slides?
Yes.
It's up, but I can't see them. Okay, so maybe I should. I can't see. I'm only saying, thank you. Thank you, technical. Yeah, I feel better looking at my slides instead of looking at my face. Are you seeing my face too? Hello?
We can't see your face, but we can see your slides.
And I think that's sufficient. Makes me feel better that you're not seeing me while you're not seeing me and I'm not seeing you. That's fair.
Okay.
But you can hear me well.
Yes, loud and clear.
Fantastic. I want to say a very big thank you for that beautiful introduction. Sometimes when I hear these profiles, I'm wondering, can it really be me? But I guess it is what it is, isn't it? So now I'd like to introduce myself. Can I see this next slide, please? Who am I? I am all that, but this is who I really am. I am a woman of purpose who has learnt from her past. I am a woman that is committed to sparing others the pain I have felt over the years, wherever I can. I have chosen to live in the truth of God's word. It is my choice. And this has led me to desire that women must discover beauty that is not vanity. They must have style that is not materialism. They have to have sweetness that doesn't translate to passivity. There has to be womanhood that is not degradation. So I have chosen not to waste my pain. I have not, I have decided not to waste my tears because I'm not just here. I am confident that I am here for a purpose. So, to be fair, that is who I really am. Qualified, trained, experienced, but that is the core me. I don't know how many of you were at the parlay on Wednesday. I started by telling a story about my life and my early life experiences. Because to be fair, those are the things that I consider to be the core me. I don't want to, what's the word? I don't want to be repetitive, but I just give you a brief background if you were not there. In fact, what I wanted to say is if you know, you know. If you don't know, or better still, if you don't get it, you forget about it. But I'll just make it very brief and concise. So, as a young child, and you must spare me because I use a lot of personal stories. And the reason I use a lot of personal stories is because of the confidentiality and the fragility of the work I do. I don't like using analogies from other people's lives or examples from other people's lives because the person may be there. And there's nothing as distressing for an individual to find out that what they have told you in strictest confidence, you are using as a mere case study. I don't know whether that makes sense. Most people do not want their private details shared. So you must bear with me when I use a lot of analogies from my life. In my practice, I do what I call self-disclosure. It helps me to connect with clients. It helps me show clients that what they are going through is not peculiar to them. It helps me to normalize stressful situations because if I've been there and I'm here, you can go through it and be here too. So, pardon me. Now, I was saying that when I was growing up, at about 13, I went through an extremely stressful experience. I lost my mother. I was the first child in a family of 4 girls, and there was a wide gap between myself and my 3 siblings. So automatically, I had to step into the role of mother. But it was even more peculiar because my father, the only surviving parent I had at the time, had been through a series of tragedies the year before. He'd lost his father, he'd lost his mother, and a couple of upheavals had occurred in his life the year before. So everybody was worried about him. Everybody was careful that he didn't break down. So from as early as 13, I was required to, you know what, Chiadi? Just be strong. You can't afford for your father to break down. So that early, I learned and I perfected the art of repressing my emotions. I just got on with it. I feared my father breaking down. I feared anything disastrous happening to any member of my family. So I was on high alert. I was hyper vigilant. I just needed to make things work. And if not expressing my emotions, if not expressing my thoughts was the way out, I just perfected it and became an expert at bottling things up. Fast forward, which brings me to my next slide. Can you please, technical, turn on the next slide? I meet the brain, that massive master gland, that massive organ in our body. I didn't realize then, like I do now, that stress response releases hormones in the body, which affect your mind. There are all sorts of glands in the body that produce hormones. There's the pancreas, there's the adrenal, there are the ovaries, there are the testes. But you know what? The master gland is the brain. I'm going to teach you a bit of biology. I know many people didn't like that, especially the neurological part of the brain, when you had to learn medulla oblongata, you had to learn amygdala, you had to learn the prefrontal cortex, you had to learn about the temporal lobes. Once I see that mushy, when I was growing up, once I see that mushy diagram of the brain, I begin to, oh Lord, what's this about? However, I'm going to take you through a bit of a bit of biology. But my next slide says stress. It is actually a good response if it is handled well. Because stress was what helped humans to survive back in the day when we were all threatened by starvation, wild animals, and war. Those hormones of stress, the adrenaline, the cortisol, was what could help a lion sprint across the savannah to catch the zebra that he needed to eat. Stress is good. Even in today's life, stress is critical. But the important thing is how brief, how extended, how elevated, how well managed is your stress response. In stress, I back to a story from my life. Many years ago in my house, there was a fire alert, and it was bad. The downstairs had caught fire, and I needed to escape. And I needed to escape with my child. I normally don't like heights, but that day, stress and the stress hormone responses galvanized me, and it made me able to move down from that. There was an emergency rope ladder or something. I threw my child down that ladder. She was a baby. The person at the bottom of the ladder caught her. I sprung myself down from that ladder. And I was safe because the stress hormones had been released into my system to help me survive. Stress hormones are those hormones that when your child is underneath a car, women, you can lift that car and retrieve your child. That is what stress is about. But this, the lion and the zebra story, is what I want to emphasize. Stress is supposed to be for a brief period. Stress is supposed to be short, concise, and acute for a particular incident. But unfortunately, most of us live in a chronically stressed state. The way I lived when I was a young girl, the way I lived 13 years ago, until one day, stress and stressful responses brought their report card for me. So let me talk to you about the zebra. There was a lion that was chasing the zebra. The zebra was in the fight or flight mode. It had to get away from the lion. It ran for its life. It evaded the lion, and then its body began to quake and shake wildly. But a few seconds after, it started grazing quietly, like nothing happened. It had totally forgotten about that near-death experience it had just had. The zebra, the way we were created, had turned off the stress response. But unlike many of us, we do not turn off our stress response. Even zebras and lions know how to. Animals, but humans do not know how to. So brings me to my biology class. See that muggly brain? The next slide. No, the one before it, sir. Yes. It's called the HPA axis. HPA stands for hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis. And my slides there, I'm seeing my face. Hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis. So the hypothalamus is the one in the brain part. The pituitary gland is in the brain, but the adrenal glands are those little almonds that sit on top of your kidney. So when there's a stressful event like the one I described, having to jump out of that fire in my house, the hypothalamus releases stress hormones to the pituitary releases to the adrenal, and stress hormones are released into your system, and your system kicks into high alert, and you move. You do what you need to do. When you have a deadline, you meet it. You're able to cut short on sleep. You're able to cut short on food. You can get what you need to do done because of those stress responses. But like the zebra, after that acute stress, we're required to walk away quietly from that stressful situation and begin to graze. The zebra forgot the lion. But unfortunately, as human beings, we never forget. We're chronically elevated. Like me, all those years, I didn't dispel or forget about the stressful hormones that were released into my body by the tragic event of losing my mother. I walked through life with those emotions bottled up, repressed, hypervigilant, anxious, and worried. And that was the story of my life. Until one day on a flight back from the United Kingdom, I bent my head. They had just announced that we were landing, and I bent my head to pray. Alas, that was it. Air hostesses were crowded around me, and I heard them saying, "Are you okay, ma'am? You just had a convulsive fit. Are you sure? Are you epileptic? Are you..." I had developed a seizure disorder because the constant, chronic, elevated stress symptoms from the master gland, my brain, had handed my body the receipt of over 20 years of chronic stress, of hypervigilance, of hyperarousal, of anxiety, of fear that wasn't tackled, wasn't managed. Unlike the zebra, I didn't walk away. I stayed there, psychologically traumatized. That is why I say that there is no health without mental health. One day, the body will bring your report card, and the body keeps the score. I hope I'm not sounding too much like a lecturer. I hope you're getting me. I wish I could see your faces, you know? So, for instance, this presentation was a stressor. Oh my goodness, how am I going to be talking to women without being connected to them? I'm not going to be able to see their body language. I'm not going to be able to see their facial expressions. Am I going to be too anxious? Am I going to be too scientific? Will I connect? That's a stressor. But because I have perfected, or I'm in the process of perfecting managing my stress, I shook it off. I said, Chiadi, that is anticipatory stress. It hasn't come. If technical matches up, that's what it is. But this is how we are. Chronically stressed about events in the past, about events in the future, about your teenager's untidy room, about traffic jam, about deadlines. We are chronically stressed. So my aim today is to teach you how to pick your stress and manage your stress responses. The last parlay we had, everybody that is a public speaker knows this, was stressed after the event. The thing had ended, but I was still anxious. Oh my goodness, I didn't say this. Oh my goodness, I didn't say this. I could have said that. But it's past. Even God cannot change events that are past. Why am I stressing, or why are you stressing about things that have passed? So I want to say to you that when the body is under prolonged stress, your cortisol level, that is that stress hormone, remains elevated. Then your brain, because it's elevated and that is your brain's normal status, you know, the default mode of your brain becomes to be releasing what they call it, excess cortisol. Your brain loses capacity to regulate its production. And because your brain has lost the capacity, your body begins to panic and then produces even more cortisol. Cortisol is a deadly hormone in the long run. Where your cortisol level is elevated, you are in trouble. If you're going to take away from anything from today, take away the word cortisol. Consistently elevated cortisol. My next slide shows the effects of excess cortisol. Obesity, it stimulates your appetite, creating a constant craving for sugar, and you begin to, that belly fat, it's cortisol. Oh. Sex hormone difficulties, the little boy won't stand. You drop in testosterone, your libido decreases. In women, significant menopausal symptoms, memory loss causes the hippocampus. Elevated cortisol causes the hippocampus part of the brain to begin to atrophy and shrink. And I know about that because that was one of the symptoms of the condition I developed, a seizure disorder that I developed. I couldn't remember my children's names. I'd walk out of the house and I'd forget where I was going. And, it was a very stressful period because my intellectual acuity was critical for me and my survival. That was my identity. But I lost it because of elevated cortisol and because I didn't know that my body keeps the score. Depression. 1 in every 10 depressive patients has enlarged adrenal glands for the release of cortisol. Bone loss, osteoporosis, decreased immune function, recurrent infections. Listen, many people don't say it, but cortisol has been found to destroy your body's natural defense against cancer by 50%. So if your cortisol level is constantly elevated, it infringes your body's ability to fight cancer. This is why we must manage stress. It is in the mind. Your response is critical. Pick your stressors. Choose the things you worry about. Don't bother about things that have passed. And I'm going to leave you with some tips today on how to manage stress effectively. I am my own lab rat. I have researched on myself, and please believe me, I know that it works. We must reduce cortisol. It cannot be elevated chronically. It is a one-off thing. It's supposed to shoot into your system, get the job done, and you move on. The next slide is a picture showing the effects of stress on the body, and I'm using the woman's body because it's a woman's day today. Headaches, rapid breathing, heartburn, high sugar, high blood pressure, fertility problems, missed periods. For the men, erectile dysfunction, depression, insomnia. Just the same things I mentioned earlier, but I just wanted to show you a graphic image of what stress can do to the body. And remember, see where it starts? In the head. Don't forget the HPA axis. The hypothalamus is in your brain, sends the stress, aggravates the pituitary gland, aggravates the adrenal glands, releases cortisol, releases adrenaline. Never forget the HPA axis every time you're aggravated. Traffic, it's a constant. So why do you want to be constantly stressed about traffic? You can't do anything about it. So my next slide, let's move. The next slide, sir. Can you see it? Sickness, becoming sick is a process. The body keeps the score. I became sick over a period of 20 years. Something that happened when I was 13 brought its payback time when I was in my 30s. Becoming sick is a process. Slowly but surely, if your cortisol level remains elevated, you will fall ill. And Christians, it's not about blasting in tongues all the time. Tongues help, prayer helps, but definite choices, life choices are critical for managing your health. Stress can make you sick. That's my next slide. It summarizes everything I have said. Can I have the next slide if you can see it? Responses that are meant for acute emergencies, we now turn it on for mortgage, inflation, oh, that presentation, oh, the forex rate, oh, my husband is coming home, oh, my best friend didn't call me, oh, my children are going away, promotion at work. You are in that state. Listen, every disease that has slow accumulation, like heart disease, memory loss, cancer, can either be caused or made worse by stress. Zebras and lions, they face trouble and they mobilize and they release the stress response for the minute, but they will not get stressed about events far in the future or in the past. If your blood pressure rises at traffic, at NEPA, at network failure, at your boss's approval, at your partner's temper, at your teenager's bedroom, your cortisol level will constantly and consistently be elevated. And please believe me, you're driving yourself to an early grave. My next slide, please. So I have some analogies for chronic stress, chronic elevated, stress. They're like penny wise and pound foolish, short-sighted responses that the body needs to activate in an emergency. But if your life is in that everyday emergency state, you will pay the price. It's like an army that runs out of ammunition. That's what your body will become. And then it has no defenses left against the threatening invader of illness. Because you've expended all your ammunition. Oh, I didn't like how she talked to me. Why was she looking at me like that? Stress, stress, stress. Then when the main stress comes, you can't do anything. Your body is like a government. When it spends too much in its defense budgets against stressors, it will neglect education, it will neglect healthcare, it will neglect arts and crafts. Your stress response becomes more damaging than the stress itself. It's like you land in an aeroplane and they say, please disembark. Instead, you go and wear your life jacket to jump out. What are you wearing the life jacket? Are you in the cloud? Just walk out. So many things can be changed by our response and our perspective. And that's where I'm headed, managing stress adequately. So some tips. The next slide. Even though the brain is the organ, the human brain is malleable. It's elastic. It is not cast in stone. We can learn, we can adapt, we can get bored, we can drift apart, we can pick up a new skill, we can drop one, we can harden, we can soften, we can forget, we can grow. So continually develop yourself. Don't sweat the small stuff. So many things are not a big deal. I'm a mother of a teenager. I've raised 2 men, and I knew how I used to fly off the handle when I'd see that their bedroom, all the clothes on the floor. I'm thinking, why the floor? But is it your dress? If you want the dress to be on the floor, let it be there. So I made a rule. Just keep my common areas tidy. What you want to do in your bedroom, do. Take things lightly. It's not that deep. Make excuses for people. The latest excuse I've learned is, oh, you don't value me because you don't know me. If you knew me, you would value me. It helps me. It helps me reduce stress when people treat me badly. I just say, oh, they don't know what I'm worth. Their loss. Their loss. You're the one that doesn't have me as a friend. Ask the people that know I make a very good friend. Learn how to take things lightly. Continually develop yourself. You know what? I saw this quotation and I loved it. It says, angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. Many of us take ourselves so seriously. It's not that deep. Let me tell you, that person that didn't answer you, she may not even have seen you from the corner of her eye. She may have been thinking about the appointment she has. It's not that deep. All these things are stress. Your child that did not tidy the bedroom, the thing that is doing you, please, if you be honest with yourself, is that you're thinking, you've left this room like this. If it was in my day, my mother would have slapped me. After all the million I'm paying for your school fees, tell yourself the truth. That's what is doing you. Oh. So you're projecting on your child the strict upbringing you had, the school fees that you're paying. Is it the child's fault that your mommy didn't know better parenting skills? So don't sweat some of these things. Check the meaning and the motive behind the things that are stressing you. The person is not greeting you. Is it why? What does it matter? Why is it really a big deal if she doesn't greet you? All the plenty people that are greeting you, have you finished greeting them? Don't sweat it. Angels can fly because they take themselves very lightly. Don't sweat it. It's not worth it. Okay? Exercise. This is a no-brainer. I'm sure many of you know it. I'm a product of exercise. My healing began with healthy lifestyle, healthy food, healthy life choices. You know, the stress response is a physical response. It's not supposed to be psychological. It's supposed to be pumping cortisol and adrenaline to make you move. So when stress comes and you move, fantastic. The stress response and the hormones drop. It's about preparing your body for sudden muscular activity. So if you just get angry and you're worked up, get on that treadmill and go for a run. You know, get a punching bag, begin to punch that bag. Get your skipping rope, start to skip. But please don't overdo it. Too much is as bad as too little. Just 3 times a week, 20 to 30 minutes. Especially if you're as old as I am, avoid any exercise that leaves you out of breath. So much so that you can't talk. Take it easy. The things that you could do back in the day, you can't do again. You know? Don't overdo. Too much is as bad as too little. Begin to practice mindfulness. This statement always sounds so colloquial, sounds so, and everybody says mindfulness, mindfulness, mindfulness. But what is mindfulness? Listen, mindfulness is simply speaking, being grounded, being in the moment. This is what I'm facing. Noticing, naming, and focusing in the emotion you are faced with during stressful periods. So, for instance, you see your boss's deadline, my job, forex rate. What am I feeling? I'm feeling panic. Notice it. Concentrate on it. Focus all your emotions on now. There's nothing I can do about the forex rate, so I'll breathe out. Practicing mindfulness is a skill. I can't teach it over the video. You'll need to consult me personally for some of those tips, but research it. Mindfulness, being in the here and now, helps. Practice mindfulness. Access accurate and predictive information. In today's world, there is so much brouhaha in social media. Nonsense information. You know? Accurate information is beneficial, but information that is too soon, too late, too much, or unnecessary should be avoided. Why every day you pick up the phone and you're looking at what is happening in Hamas, with Hamas and Israel? You cannot send food to the people in Hamas. You're just aggravating yourself. You're thinking about Third World War. If Third World War happens now and you're in Aja, what can you do? Or is it third? Yeah, what can you do? So leave the one you cannot do anything about now and face the price of crayfish in the market. Too much information. Social media bombards you with everything. Listen, I don't even watch those news things because I know they will come. I'll see one clip. Those things traumatize me. What am I doing with it? I avoid certain topics. Where is Nigeria going? I don't want to know. When we get there, we'll see. I've handed it to God. I'm not going to be troubling my head with where Nigeria is going. Use predictive information is good because it helps you to prepare. What's the stock market saying helps you to invest. What's the workplace saying helps you to know where to apply. It gives you time to prepare, you know, because it's predictive. But a lot of information we get is junk. do I care about strawberries? Do strawberries grow in Nigeria? Hello? You're talking about, what do they call it? Global warming. I haven't paid NEPA bill. Excuse me. There's one I always ask my clients. I said, what are you going through your partner's telephone for? What are you doing with that information? Please, I want to see the face of the client, of the participants in this country, social media. Please, let me see their faces. What are you looking for in your husband's message or your wife's message? What will that information do for you? What will it help you to? Too much information is not good, oh. Ignorance is bliss many times, oh. What you don't know can't hurt you, oh. Don't look for what is not looking for you, oh. What do you think about that? All they want to do, who are you talking to? Who was that? If the man now says it's my girlfriend, my babe, what are you going to do? Face your front to and maintain your lane. Too much information, just access accurate and information you can work with. Social capital. Invest in social capital for support. You can turn on the slide. Relying on the right person for social support is critical. Note my words, the right person, the right network of friends, the right community, adequate social capital, close and intimate relationships with the wrong person often aggravates stress. Back to the mental health palette. After the event, my head was all over the place. Oh, I should have said that. I shouldn't have said that. Meanwhile, it's gone. So what I did, I just spoke to someone that I knew would understand and understands she understands my makeup. I said to me, oh, Sister Chiadi, I beg, I was there, I saw it now. All of us always feel that way. Once you finish a talk, you begin to think, what didn't I say? What did I say? Did I say right? I mean, we're getting positive feedback. I was anxious about the effect of that. But I just said to myself, hey, it's gone, it's done. Too bad. You can't change it. Many things you could have said, many things you shouldn't have said, but it's done. Even God cannot change what has happened. He can only sort out the consequences and mitigate the some consequences. Two things he cannot do. He cannot lie. And he cannot change things that have already happened. Look for the correct network of friends. Talk to the right person about the right thing. If you go and talk to somebody that doesn't know about public speaking, they'll just tell you nonsense. Hey, what is it now? Dismiss your feelings, dismiss your fear, and make you feel minimized. Be careful not to mistake social affiliation with social support. That's one thing many people do. Everybody's not your best friend. You don't go to everybody for everything. Be careful. Some relationships are just social affiliations. Learn how to give support. Volunteer, advocate, work in the church office. That also helps mental health. When you find yourself in a position of giving instead of always receiving. Don't forget, social affiliations do not translate to social network. Everybody that says hello to you is not necessarily your social capital. Okay? The next slide may just be a social affiliation. The next slide, sir. So, my Christian brothers and sisters, is it faith, is it foolishness, or is it presumption? Be realistic in your expectation. It helps to reduce stress. Many of us in our final year, we hadn't studied though. Last semester of final year, you knew what your GPA was. Then the first three weeks before exam, you want to get a first class. Mind yourself, oh. Hey. All demands cannot be vanquished with sheer determination and hard work. Learn the difference. If you have not been studying, you will not get first class. So if you like, pray from now till tomorrow. Have wisdom to pick your battles and your responses effectively. I don't do distressing news. When news is distressing, I avoid it. If I can't do anything about it, I let it go. I learned to quote many years ago. I wish, I mean, I wouldn't have time to discuss it in depth, but I always say, in the face of a strong wind, let me be a blade of grass that will just be flexible. In the face of strong walls, let me be a gale of wind that can blow it down. Be flexible. Know the difference between the things you can handle and the things you can't handle. Is it faith? Is it foolishness? Or are you being presumptuous? So, what is faith? It's a good thing. I love it when my clients are people of faith and share the same kind of faith. For me, I summarize faith, I have it as a little thing on my wall. I may not know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. To view all stress as a thing that God is masterminding, to view all stress in the context of God, a person that is orchestrating your life's journey, it helps you to cope with stress. You know how we say it, all things work together for good for those who are called by, who love God and are called according to his promises. That's what faith does for you. Who would have thought that that distressful event 13 years ago will lead me on this path to become a doctorate degree holder in psychology, pursuing mental health, getting relief, understanding integrative health coaching, offering stress management consultancy for people. It works together. I don't know what tomorrow holds, neither do you, but you and I know who holds tomorrow. Another quotable, and I'm addressing every human being in the house. Once you're not a zebra, you're not a lion, you're a human being here. Since we have been uniquely smart enough to have invented most of our stressors by ourselves, now we invent mortgage, now we invent democracy. We're the ones that invented APC and PDP. We're the ones that invented it. We have been uniquely foolish enough to have let those stressors dominate our lives. We should be uniquely wise enough to banish their stressful hold. Many of the things that are doing you, nobody sent you. Now you send yourself for. Think about it very well. There are very few stressors that are critical. Many of them, now you'd raise the bar for yourself. Your children don't have to go to the UK to study. There's Babcock, there's Covenant. So since we've been uniquely smart enough to have invented stressors, let us be uniquely wise enough to banish their stressful hold on us. I want to end by talking to you about the Pareto principle. 20% of effort gives 80% of results. It just took 20% of effort, just took my changing my lifestyle, my overhauling my friends, my changing my attitude to people and things, and stress reduction began in my life. My cortisol level diminished, my seizures and my blackouts stopped, my health returned to normal, my walk with God became better, my life improved, and I began to thrive. 20% of criminals cause 80% of the crime. 20% of customers are responsible for 80% of the complaints. And 20% of effort results in 80% of stress reduction. Just start so that you can thrive. Don't forget, my next slide, please. Not that one, not that, the next one. Don't forget, the body keeps the score, and you will pay for every elevated stress hormone. Becoming sick is a process, and it all began in the mind. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been meaningful and impactful. Thank you for this opportunity. I wish I was there. I love you all so, so, so much. I really do wish I was there. But guess what? I'm not going to stress about that. I'm just going to thrive.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chiadi. We love you. We love you right back. Thank you so much for impacting in us.
Love you, love you, love you.
Thank you. I mean,
Thank
being part of
you
your
so
session.
much.
So let me just add to say, being part of your session on Wednesday was an eye opener for me. So trust me, I don't know what you didn't say, but all what you said made sense to me, and it made sense to a lot of us. So thank you so much for impacting in us. A round of applause for Dr. Chiadi.
Thank you.
All right. So I mean, she said some serious words to us. A lot of things are stressing us. In fact, I recall there was a period I was taking the train, and I said, as a Nigerian, we are always angry. Unfortunately, that's what I've seen. When you travel abroad, people smile. Even when they have issues, they don't show it. But as a Nigerian, you are angry. You're waking up, there's no light, you have to pay for power, do this. When you enter your car, there's traffic. One Agbero is just, moving the car anyhow. You keep screaming. If you're not careful, by the time you get to the office, you're stressed up. Are we together? So really, this, tips on how to manage stress is something that is really, really important in our life. So thank you so much. I just said that the body keeps the score. So whatever we're doing, there's a time where you will get the report card. The question is, what will be your report card? So we need to be mindful of our mind. And becoming sick is a process. So, and finally, it all begins in the mind. And I picked something that talked about the fact that the mind is really, really strong. We need to know what is it that we're putting it in the mind, so that we can, the outward starts from where the inward. So please, let us ensure that our body, soul, and mind is together, and we just think of good things that will make us happy. She talked about, I think there was some point we're talking about how to, if you lose someone or whatever, you can think of the memories. So having those good memories also help us. So God will help us all in Jesus' name. So my mind, my health is critical. A round of applause again for Pastor Dr. Chiadi Ndu. We're going to take questions for the next few minutes. Other questions we'll take during the course of the Let's Talk About It, but because she's online, we want to take questions now for the next 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, please raise up your hand, or if you want to write it, please pass it on to the usher near you. We're taking questions now. Do we have any questions for Dr. Chiadu? Anyone at all in the house, or anyone online? Do we have any questions? Anyone? Or you like to write it down? Okay, please go ahead, ma. Can you help me pass the mic to her? There's a mic.
Thank you. Okay, my question is, how do you deal with a son who has turned against you because of his wife?
Dr. Chiadi, did you hear that, ma'am?
Yes, I did actually. I want to start by saying that, quite frankly, that must be a very hurtful thing, and saying, oh, just forget about it, will be minimizing. When I say, can you see me? Yeah. Just saying, forget about it, it's life, will be minimizing and trivializing your pain. It is very hurtful to have nurtured a child, brought him to the place where the loop and the curve is supposed to close, and you're supposed to begin to reap the fruit of your labor, and he is taken away from you. Because that's what it really is. Because what the person is trying to do is cut off a legitimate relationship with your child, which is mother-child relationship. So, in my opinion, there's only one person you can change in this life, and that is you. What I often do before I go into the narrative of pray, what I often do is I've learned to make excuses for people. When you begin to imagine the person's why is my child doing this? Why does this woman have this amount of power over my child? Is my son insecure? Is there a gap in my relationship with my son? Are there things I can correct with my son? Do I adopt a tone of voice that is supercilious and instructing and intrusive to my son? What is the why? Can I change anything about it? Do I still view him as my son and cut off that part that says this is an adult, someone else's husband with his own responsibilities? Is that what I'm doing? What is the reason? Why does this woman, have I modeled that women can control husbands to him? Can I have a chat with him about it? Or is it a demonic situation? Do I pray? Do I break down strongholds? Do I take down principalities and powers? This is the fruit of my loins. I birthed this child. I'm invested in this child, Lord. I have a stakeholder in it. These are things you can do. Examine the why. Examine things you can change. And if it is purely of a spiritual dynamic, man, take up your shield, take up your armor, and go to war for your son. You're a stakeholder in his life. You're part of his destiny. You cared for him, and the law of reciprocity states that what you sow, you will reap. You have a right to be cared for and enjoy intimacy and relationship with your son. It's a legal foothold, legitimate. Take it to the Lord once you have sorted out all your whys. I don't know whether that addressed the question, but psychological and spiritual.
Thank you, Dr. Chiadi. Any other question? Anyone in the house online? Are we good? A round of applause again for Dr. Chiadi. Thank you so much. And I'm sure, like she said, she can have personal conversations with us if we still need to engage her. Okay, one more question. What happened, Ma? Okay, let's take, so Dr. Chiadi, we still need you. One more question, and that'll be it for this session.
Okay, Ma, please, can you provide counsel or advice for someone who, I have someone who is very close to me. If the person is involved in projects, he finds it very difficult to sleep because it's as if he's running constantly on his mind and all of that. And, you know, at times you want to say it's his nature, but then again, I'm thinking it's not very healthy. So what will you say to such a person to help? Please. Thank you very much.
Dr. Chiadi, okay.
So, yes, I'm sure from my explanation, you've understood that those projects are stressful events and that his responses have caused the elevated adrenaline and cortisol, which shuts down, they're called the sympathetic and parasympathetic part of the automatic nervous system, has shut down his ability to sleep, his diet, his life functions. I promise you, if it is for a short period, it's okay. He probably needs that energy to be able to meet the deadlines. Remember, you need the adrenaline, you need the stress to push you. There is good stress. But where it becomes a problem is where it is a constant and a consistent situation. He needs sleep therapy. He needs relaxation. He needs exercise. He needs to be able to talk to mentors that have gone through those kind of life situations. He needs to be able to be vulnerable about timeline management. Some people think we're Hercules. We take on the world. He needs to apportion. He needs to learn to delegate. Are there places that he can give other people to do? These are conversations we must have with ourselves in the place of authenticity and transparency with ourselves. What am I doing wrong? Or with an intimate partner or person, like the person you're talking about, for instance. If you're speaking to him in a non-judgmental, accusatory way, he may be able to understand what you're saying. There's sleep, there are relaxation methods. There is paced breathing, there is chamomile tea, there is massage, There is, you know, and I'm not talking about any spa experience. I have a Mama Ruth, you know, a local Ijaw woman. By the time she does you some hot massage, deep tissue, that's what Oyibo will call it. But I call it the Mama Ruth touch. By the time she gives you her Mama Ruth touch, you will sleep. There's so many things. When does he eat? How does he eat? Does he drink coffee? All these things must be eliminated. And of course, there is sleep therapy and there is mindfulness and relaxation techniques. But the critical thing is identifying and learning to talk and be vulnerable about the things you're going through. The short burst of stress, don't forget, is good to get the project done. But consistently elevated, he will break down. It's not in his best interest. It's short-sightedness, he will break down. Okay?
Thank you so much, Doctor. Can we give her a round of applause? Thank you.
We have one more question.
All right, so can you help read that out? Thank you.
Okay, there's a question on Slido. What do you do, Ma, when your spouse is always
Thank you
causing
very much, sir.
stress? Sorry, can you hear me?
Can you hear us? We're reading out a question.
There was an intrusion.
Okay,
Someone was
I'll
saying
start
something.
over. Okay. We have a question on Slido. Okay, now we have two. This one says, what do you do, Ma, when your spouse is always causing you stress with the way of their life, their financial decisions, and not keeping short when necessary? What do you do if your spouse is
I heard
the
that.
cause of your stress?
I heard that.
And the second question, sorry, it's just that you take both of them. The second question is, how do you handle or advise someone that is having a very stressful marriage and wants to divorce or separate? So both questions relate to having, you know, a stressful marriage.
Yeah, I expected that from women. These are husbands, they show us Pepe. But I want to be seeing you people's face so that I can get your body response. So I don't want to be talking so I don't say the wrong thing. I beg you. You know, communication is not only just word of mouth. I want to be seeing your face. So the summary of what the people are asking is, if your spouse is your stressor. That's the summary. If your intimate partner is your stressor, how do you cope? May I suggest that the first thing everybody must learn is that marriage is not an end in itself. You don't live to marry or live to be married. You marry to live. You marry to enhance your life. The way I describe marriage and it sets me free was when I realized that my partner, my husband, is my destiny lubricant. His role in my life is to lubricate my path and to help me to get to where I'm going. So he is not the destination. Where I'm going, my purpose in life with God, heaven, eternity is my destination. Once you compartmentalize this in your head, first of all, it helps you to release your husband of responsibilities that he's not able to undertake. Many of us expect our husbands to be our validation, our endorser, our encourager, our provider, our Holy Spirit. Not be man. So the first thing that I did was realize that I'm married to a mere mortal. And I put him on a scale, and I scaled his strengths and I scaled his non-strengths. And I discovered that the gentleman I married, albeit not perfect like me, has some strengths. So I said to myself, you're going to now learn to focus on the things he does well. I'm going to take away the power from this person, a mere mortal, to dictate my mood, my stress, my cortisol level. I'm going to take away the power by expecting him to just be a man, which is what he is. It's only yourself you can change. It's only yourself you can help. You cannot change an unfaithful man. Even God, otherwise all of us would be holy now and righteous. You can't. So I have made up my mind and I teach people to get a life. Get a life. What are you doing on this earth? Is it just to be a wife? What are you doing? What are your skills? What are your passion? What you have to have a life. You have a purpose. You are going somewhere. God just gave you this individual to help you to get there. So when you get that in your head, that this individual is not the destination, it will reduce your stress. It will reduce your stress. This person is supposed to help me to get to where I'm going, not that he is where I'm going. What are your core values? What do you believe in? What is your assignment? What is your purpose upon this earth? Can you sort that out? What are the things you do that aggravate him? What are his trigger responses? Why do those things hurt you the way they hurt you? Could it be your early life experiences? Could it be your personality trait? I always say the first work starts with you. Divorce. I tell people too, the grass is often greener on the other side. When the song of divorce is playing, divorce, 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 it will be sweet. It will be luring you. But have you considered the pros and the cons of being divorced and staying married? I'm not even talking about God hates divorce. I'm talking about practicality. If this person is not contributing financially while you're married, will he contribute when you're separated? Those are practical things. What does the being divorced from him, what does it add? What's the added value? I always say to people, I'm not divorcing my husband, though. You know why? Very selfish. It's not good for my spiritual PR. Me, personally. Please show your face now. So I'm sure I'm not saying anything on appropriate or on promised land like. I beg you. Please show your face. I'm not divorcing anybody. I've told him, me and you, we go live and die here. For convenience purposes. Why will I leave you? After how many years another person will come and reap the fruit of my labor? No. Consider your pros and cons. Then grandchildren, will you stay with daddy? Will you stay? It is not convenient. Inside here, we will live, we will die. Get a life. Get a life. Your husband is a mere man. For your own purposes, begin to manage your stress responses and ensure that breaking up will not be more difficult than making up. Before you take that step, Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
Yeah, well, we have a question, but Pastor Faye had her hand up.
Yes, I was gonna.
So maybe we take that first.
Yeah,
then
so
the next
Pastor
question.
Faye, we saw you a moment ago, and I think you raised your hand. Please, you have the floor now, ma.
Thank you, Dr. Chiadi. Thank you, Pastor Mo, for this session. I just want to add to what Dr. Chiadi said to the first question, what do you model to your sons? If you model that you control their father, when he gets married, he wants to do away with you because he's seen the punishment you have given to his father. So as much as possible, he wants to stay away from you. Secondly, it will affect his own marriage as well, because he will always be on the defense. I don't want this woman to control me, just like my mother controlled my father. So that is just my contribution. What we model to our children matters a lot, and it will help, the stress level in our own lives and in their own lives. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you.
Hello,
Thank you,
Pastor
Feintola.
Feintola.
Last question for. Yes.
Hello,
Last
sis.
question. Hello, ma'am. So someone sent a question. She said she's 36 years old and very forgetful. You know how Dr. Chiadi said, high stress levels can impact your memory. So she's asking, how can she improve? What can she do about this? Just 36 years old and she's having memory issues.
Okay. Hi. Again. I don't know. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so we've talked about the stress responses. We've talked about cortisol. By the way, cortisol is a steroid hormone that the body secretes. And if you remember, I said that it shrinks and atrophies the hippocampus. That's the memory store bank of the brain. So there could be neurological assault and insult on your brain, especially your hippocampus. You may need medical intervention, but I'm not a medical doctor. So I would say again, coping skills and managing skills for your stress level to ensure that these stress hormones are reduced and kept at a minimum. What do you do to relax? I found out something crazy in research just a couple of days or weeks ago. Do you know that speaking your native language is therapeutic and can calm you down? Do you know that learning a new language improves your memory by almost 80%? Learning how to play instruments, the piano. And like I said, I practice self-disclosure, so I'm going to tell you about my personal experience. I had said to you that when I was struggling with my health, of course, my hippocampus was atrophied. It was affected and it had shrunk. I forgot many things. I forgot my children's names. Like I said, I could be coming out, I'd forget where I'm going, and I was also in my 30s, But when I began this path of restorative living, I obliterated processed food. I wouldn't eat anything that was processed. So the only thing I ate, natural foods, vegetables. You see this thing we do in Nigeria, when you're in Nigeria, you're eating apple. Don't eat apple. What are you eating apple when there's agbalumo? Nigerians say they eat, what do they call it? Kale, instead of eating ugu. What are you eating ugu for instead of shoko? Do you know how many days that thing traveled across the sea to get to you? And the preservatives and the pesticides it has contaminated itself with. Keep your feeding clean. Learn to detoxify. Don't sweat the small stuff. Let a lot of things go. A change in lifestyle. Practice self-care. Please believe me. Learn how to speak. Talk in your raw tongue. Even if you don't know how to speak it, not speak in another language. Worship God in Yoruba or Igbo if you're Igbo. Do you see how all of us explode and how relaxing it is for us when we begin to say, Orishe Yanu, Albalagba Ologbalagba, Ekweme, Dikenaga, Odogunaga. It's relaxing. We connect. These are practical little tips you can learn. And you know what? When I began to recover, the first thing that was restored to me was my Igbo speaking skills. I'm grandma brought up, because I lost my mom early. So I know a lot of Igbo words and I know Igbo. But after a while, I didn't remember all those proverbs my grandmother used to say, do adages. But when when my hippocampus began to get better, my word, I would speak all sorts of Igbo. My husband would say, is this the only song you sing? Ebueme! Anụ a na-agba egbe ọ na-ata nri. Olori ihe loro enyi. Gaga no. Those were the things I returned. Your core language. Get in touch with your roots. Learn a language. Learn a new skill. Reduce your cortisol level. And above every other thing, my darling sister, I'm not going to tell you, I want to believe that you're praying. The brain organ is plastic. Science has proven it. It's elastic. So it can shrink, it can expand, it is malleable. So even though your hippocampus may be compromised currently, I promise you, with the right life skills, there are many things I can tell you privately I can't really say in front here. There's supplements, magnesium level, vitamin D level, valerian roots. There are herbs that you can take, ashwagandha, and various things we can talk about privately that helped me in my path. But keep it natural. It can reverse. From a person that couldn't remember her children's names, I went on to do a master's in a brand new course, and I obtained a PhD from a person that would leave her house and not know where she's going. So I know that the brain is restorative. Even though the body keeps the score, the body also can heal itself when you give it adaptable and amiable conditions and circumstances. Your brain is elastic. The hippocampus will bounce back and you'll be fine because you're the child of the Most High. You will be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Chiadi. I have one question here for you, Dr. Chiadi, and it's how do you handle stress of fertility?
Okay. I wish I was an ONG. It's interesting, that you're asking this, because honestly, in between my first child is 5 years older than my second. My second is 12 years older than my what do they call it? My third. So you're also speaking to someone who understands or has been through primary infertility. It's a good question. You can't conceive if the circumstances aren't right. The hormonal level, the stress level, vitamins, minerals, those are the primary places that people should pay attention to. What are you eating? What are your biomarkers? What is your fertility genetic disposition? And of course, You saw it too. Elevated cortisol level affects the production of those glands that help conception. We must reduce them. That's the primary thing we can do. That's the only thing we can do for ourselves in matters of biology and reproduction. Detoxification. There's so many free radicals in the system. Listen, we're all patients. Most of us are walking time bombs waiting to explode. I'm telling you the truth. I'm sure you see how people are slumping, dying, waking up, slumping, dying. Yeah? We don't know how aggravated many of us are. So if you can, first of all, do the detox, mental, spiritual, physical, and leave everything in the hands of the master orchestrator, the one who manages our timelines. He's not a tick the box God, unlike what we've made him to be. We don't just bring our grocery list and he rubber stamps it for us. He has a plan. Timelines are in his hands. That is where faith moves to trust. But I also don't want you to forget that it takes two to tango. What is your partner doing? Hello? A lot of women beat themselves up in this infertility thing. Men also have elevated cortisol. A lot of men's sexual hormones are badly depleted. It takes two. There's only one Virgin Mary, only one Immaculate Conception. So if the guy is not jigging, nothing is going to jiggle. He also has to check out a couple of things, okay? I hope this answers your question adequately. Yeah? Otherwise, we can talk privately. Like I said, there are private tips I also have. Just tips. But it's the mastermind, the master orchestrator of our life's journey. Everything is in God's hands. Yeah? Okay, you people, am I doing a dissertation or defense?
No,
Is it
we're here. We are sinking it in. We're taking it in.
You're giving me PTSD. You're elevating my cortisol.
No, we're taking it in. Would have loved you to be here physically. You'd have seen all the energy. So thank you so much, Dr. Chiadi. I hope I got it right. Can you hear us?
Perfectly.
Awesome. A round of applause for Dr. Chiadi. Thank you. And like you said, we would have people discuss with you for private sessions. I'm very sure, some people will reach out to you, through the pastorate. Thank you.